Okay, the last video ran much longer than I had intended for it to run, but it covered a lot of stuff, so we won't have to review it here. If you don't understand something, there should be a video right in front of this one that details exactly all the steps. We looked at this model in the previous one too. And again, the different parts are different colors. That's so I can identify them as they are a separate part, of the whole thing. And the colors just keep it straight. When I'm working on other views, I can go back to the color. Myself, I like the shape of this one, so if we build one like this, that's probably what we'll go with. These are just outriggers. They're made out of the same construction technique. The lines you see across here are bulkheads inside the outriggers. Only the last two top panels get put on with adhesive. The rest of it's done just like the boat, with fiberglass tapes on the seams and fiberglass over the whole outside. Oh, I might mention one other thing. When you have your plywood and you haven't done anything to it yet, lay it out on some saw benches, slather the epoxy, one coat of epoxy over it, and put a layer of fiberglass cloth, or two if you want. Two's better. One at 45 degrees and one straight up and down. Take the 45 piece, which you cut off, the corner piece you cut off. It's the corner piece for down here. You don't have to waste anything. Okay, the reason you put the fiberglass on it, on one side, you can bend the plywood almost as easy with fiberglass on one side as nothing on the plywood. When you put it on the other side, that shape is locked in. You can't do anything but break it. It won't bend anymore. But all these inside corners and stuff in here that you'd have a devil of a time trying to make individual pieces of plywood or fiberglass, you'd have to have it all put in there on the joints before you start putting the bulkheads, and they're going to be awful stiff after you do that, trying to spring it around to get this stuff in there. And then one side of all your bulkheads, the side that's going to be closed in, is already fiberglassed. So when you get done, basically the whole inside of your boat is looking like it's fiberglass just because you stuck it together. The outside is the other side of the plywood. The actual part is out in the water, plus the outside of the seat and the verticals on this seat. The things that are gray here, those won't have glass on them. And now if you're going to cut out parts that stay flat, like this seat parts here, yeah, you can glass both sides, but you better make sure that it's laying on something that's really true, that's flat. Because if you put any kind of a bend in it, it's going to have a bend in it. It won't go away. You can't talk it out of it. No politicians here. Okay. This is same construction as the previous video. These strips go together to make an outrigger. The ones will have another piece with a one on it. The two goes to the thing with the two. The fours go to the hole with the four. And again, you don't have to have these holes and numbers on here. It just can be done pretty quick in CAD, and it makes the boat all self-aligning. It's kind of hard to get it any kind of out of shape. But it takes probably 2 sheets to make outriggers. Okay, this drawing here was cut into 2 pieces, this chunk, and these are just for alignment. Line up with that, cut a notch, look through the hole. Put tape on both sides. Down here in the bottom is, these are the bulkheads, and yeah, I would label these, really would, because the front and the backs, they're different. And enough difference that you can make it force them in there or start trimming. That's the worst thing you can do, because it will fit if you don't trim it. But if you trim it, then the next one won't fit either. Okay, so What's the actual boat parts here? Okay, it looks like a lot of sheets of plywood, but they're not, because these sheets over here were made into a printable piece and an extra piece. They're copies. You could erase them. Wouldn't make any difference. Down here, oh. This is stuff that's not outriggers. These are seat parts and deck parts. See, they're gray, so I know that they're seat and deck. There's actual hull in here somewhere. It's a long boat. What's that up there? I think what this is showing is that that's where. No. I was going to tell you that's just a placeholder, but it's not. There's actual drawing there. Yeah. Those holes go together, so that's a part. Right side of seat number 1, so that's a part 2. That would be, I think it's probably this piece right here is what that label is. Okay. And with pretty much everything. I think this is detailing the price to build this thing in pesos. 24,771 pesos plus a bunch of labor. This is stuff for the house. I just wrote it down so I didn't have to keep the piece of paper. I just store stuff on drawings. $24,500 thereabouts. This is tell you how many yards and where it went when you did it, and you can look up on Wikipedia and stuff that. But what you're looking for is a resin to glass content, where you want more glass than resin is ideal. 1-to-1, the weight of resin and the weight of glass is how you pretty much buy it, and you're going to hover around that number. If you the resin adds no strength to the fiberglass, none. It's a matrix that keeps the little fibers separated from each other. That's what it does. It's a matrix. The glass is the strength, and the fact that it's long, thin filaments, the chances of having a discontinuity across it's like 40 filaments twisted into one thread and then woven. You're not going to have a bunch of broken strands all lined up, and that's why it's so dang strong. It's way stronger than steel. That's another boat. I'm not sure which one that is, but it'll have the same thing with this one. I didn't bother putting numbers on. This is probably the first one that I actually drew. I think it's got a place for an outboard motor. It's got pointed in on one end and a squared off end on the other end. What else is on here? I think we've gone over most of the stuff that was on that. Let's see what we got here for another drawing. Okay, I just loaded several examples of this. This is the rowboat, sailboat thing. This is showing what you draw half of it, and then you have a center line down the drawing. Does not have to be through the center part. Could be above it, below it, just as long as it's running end to end, any height. And you make an image, it's a mirror image, and that gives you the second side. Here it is with the second side. And naturally, they fit precisely. They can't not fit because you didn't really draw them. Some of these boats come out fairly shapely. This one is being that it's like a planing hull sailboat. Like you can tow water scooters with a planing hull sailboat. I can't think of the name of the company. They made boats like Sunfish and Sailfish for some of their models. The Sailfish was a bigger model of the Sunfish. And we have movies of in the 1970s, them towing a water scooter behind them. There's a lot of power in the sail. It just doesn't go that awful fast. It's how much you can go more than wind speed is what counts. They have them now with hydrofoils, 3 hydrofoils, and the front one self-adjusts on a fiberglass strut. In a 20 knot wind, they're running 70-some knots. It was a long time before anybody made it 3 times the speed of wind, but they just jumped right on past that. And that led into the America's Cup boats you see today that are catamarans with adjustable hydrofoils and wing keels and that the Australians invented. Anyway, that's trivia. This has got a somewhat squared off transom. You could bolt a outboard or a electric motor to it. From the side, it's a kind of a flat thing. There's no real bad views on this thing. Because what's out of the water is from here up. That's all you can see. It's a fairly flat little thing. But it's made to be swamped. It's the only place water can go is in the center of it here. And if you haven't got a baling bucket, well, it's going to take you a while to get the water out. But it's inherently stable. It's flat and it's wide. Don't need outriggers on that. Okay, how do you actually draw a boat? Okay, we're just going to start off with a couple of lines that are slapped on this piece of paper. If that's going to be an awful wide, flat-looking boat. That's all right. We'll just do that anyway because there's a piece of line here. We'll start. We're going to take and draw a line from the end of that, perpendicular to there. Okay, this is like the edge of your deck, the high up on the boat. Now you need a shape that's near the water line. So we're going to do that. Let's see here. We're going to start here, and we don't want to go square things, so we're going to turn that off. I don't like that. Let me back up. It backs up one point at a time. Too many points. It gets a lumpy curve when you do that. Let's just start over. I can envision what that'll look like. That'll be crap. After you do a couple of these, you get some idea what not to do. We're not making a thing of beauty. We're doing an example. Let's not care what it looks like. The process is the same whether it looks like crap or not. Get this thing out of here someplace away from everything. Just off the screen is a help window. It's telling me what dimension or what line or what center or what point that it wants to know next. Well, we'll get this down some. Okay. We have a difference in height between this shape below the water line and the deck. So we're going to go down here and move it down. Let's find where the end of that is, and we'll put a line there just because we can. This will probably end up being a door before it was done. Whatever. We need a shape of the bottom of the boat. So we're going to come here and put a little curve in it. And we need a shape on the top of the boat. I don't know what I've got there. Let's look at it and surface, planar curves. Let's put a little meat on the bone here. Oh, it's not closed. Crap. I didn't think it had to be. I'm going to pause a second. I got to think a minute. If it'll only stop.